If you're like me and you struggle with editing your real estate photos when you're starting out, then this video should help you a lot. When I first started my real estate business nearly 10 years ago, I found it very difficult because the learning curve was just so steep. You have to learn all your equipment, you have to learn all your settings, as well as deal with customers, real estate agents, and all the challenges of actually shooting a house for money. And on top of all that, you also have to know how to edit. I learned how to edit along the way, and I thought this was a great photo when I first started out. And at the time, the agent was happy, but I look at it now and I just go, it's so disgusting. Real estate photography has progressed so much over the years, and this is how images have evolved to now. I shot this house just last week, and as you can see, it's a huge difference from the one that I did when I started. And so because editing can take so long, I'm going to show you the fastest way to edit your images so you get your jobs out quickly, and they'll look great too. I also have a couple of free Lightroom presets you can use in your editing as well, especially if you're editing a single image instead of doing, say, HDR edit, and I'll put a link to the description for you as well for that, as always. And if you don't know what HDR is, it stands for High Dynamic Range. And how you shoot it is with your camera on a tripod so it can't move, and it fires off a sequence of images, usually 5 or 7 images. Each image is set at a different exposure to capture all the highlights and the shadows, from light till dark basically. That way when you blend those 5 or 7 images together, you get a mostly even lit photo. I know this might sound a little bit confusing, so how about I just show you. As you can see here, I've created HDR photos of this house that I shot recently, and you've got light through darks. You've got the normal exposure, a darker exposure to get all the details in the windows, one that isn't quite so dark, and then you've got brighter exposure to get more detail in the shadows, and then one that's pretty much over the top, which gives you all the detail everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all 5 of those, right click and go photo merge and do HDR. And that's roughly what it's going to look like. We're going to go merge, and what it does, it merges the 5 photos together, so it catches all the shadows and all the highlights and makes one really nice photo, in theory. Now if you look at the bottom here, you'll see that it's created an extra image. We're not going to work on these 5, we're going to work on this one that's created. It says HDR.dng, that's the HDR photo that we're going to work on. And it's a bit dark, but overall it's a pretty good start. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the right here, we're going to scroll all the way down, and we're going to adjust the verticals and so on. So we're just going to make that a bit more straighter, and maybe do the verticals as well. There we go, that's evened it out. So if you look along the left here, you can see that it's straight. And if you look at our vertical lines, it's pretty good. You can't use the curtains because they fan outwards, but everything else has got a pretty good vertical line on it, so it's not too bad. Alright, now I'm going to scroll up to the top. First thing we want to do is create a white balance that is correct. So in this case, I usually look for something that's white in the photo already, like the picture here is white on the wall there, or I will go with just maybe a neutral color in the roof, which gives you a really good indicator of where white should be. As you can see, that didn't change much from the white on the picture in the frame over here, so I think we're pretty good on our white balance. Now we're going to bring our exposure up, because I want this to be a lot brighter than it is. And we're going to bring our highlights down even more, so we catch those details outside. And our shadows up. If you look at the detail outside, it's pretty good. We've lost a little bit over here. It's blown out a bit over there, so let's bring the exposure back down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brush. I don't want to lose that detail out there. So now it's not white. You can see a bit of the blue sky, a bit of the green tree. Of course it's out of focus out there. It's much sharper in the middle. So we're going to grab a brush. Select brush. And we're going to brush over all the areas that aren't bright. So I'm just going to brush over here. We're going to highlight it first. Not worried about the roof at the moment, and we're going to bring the exposure up just on those areas. You hit Alt to undo it in areas. We don't want to do it over the windows. That looks looks pretty good. Now I want to do something with this roof. I'm not really fussed about how dark the roof is. I know we can bring the whole image up if I can adjust that roof. So let's go into Photoshop. We're going to go edit in Photoshop, like so. And now that we're in Photoshop, you can see that the roof is quite dark. So I'm going to create a new layer. So we're going to duplicate this layer by holding left click and dragging it down to the plus sign. Now we've got 2 layers. And I'm going to grab the polygon lasso tool up the left here. And we're going to click under the cornice. This area here is called a cornice. If you do above it, it looks weird. So I'm going to do underneath. So I'm just basically just going to click along the bottom of it, like so. Now you can zoom in if you want to do it, but for the sake of this, I'll just do it quickly this way. And go all the way around, and we're going to close that loop. Now we're going to go to image adjustments, and we're going to do hue and saturation. Now first thing you want to do is you want to take the saturation out of it. We want to lose all this color cast. We want to lose a lot of the color. So it's going to make it basically bring it down to almost black and white. And then we're going to get the lightness, and we're going to bring the lightness up, like so. Now if it's too black and white, then you can bring it back a little bit on the saturation, just to make it blend in a bit more. Okay, then go select, deselect, and now we have an image that is much better when it comes to a before and after. Now I'm going to merge those together. You do Control S and then Control W. Control S saves it and Control W exits it. I'm going to go back into Lightroom. You can see this is the before and this is the after. But not quite finished yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a brush again. I'm going to brush in the area where it's really yellow here because yellow lighting and the wall is yellow. So we're just going to, we don't have to be very neat with this because we're not going to do anything with exposure. We're just going to pull some color out of it. And then we're going to scroll down to saturation, and we're just going to bring the saturation down a little bit just to bring that yellow out so it's not so punchy. That's good. Now if it was a bit darker around here, and it is a little bit dull in this area here, I'd like to create a radial gradient and just bring it down here like this. And we'll bring that exposure up a little bit to give it a bit more pizzazz. Now we've got a little bit of blue color casting across here as well. If you look at the original image, it isn't there. I think it was just in the darker images that's cast from that. So I'm going to get the brush again, and we're going to brush everywhere where I think is a little bit too blue, like here, along here and so on. It's a bit blue there, it's a bit blue along the top. I'm just going to bring that saturation out again. Just going to bring it down so it's not so obvious. Maybe put the exposure in a little bit, bring it up a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now this is the before and after of that internal photo. As you can see, there is quite a big difference from the start to finish. But now I want to show you how to edit an external dusk photo, because they're a little bit more time consuming and you usually get paid more for these, so it's best to pay a little bit more attention to them in the edit. Alright, now let's look at an external image. Let's see what we can do with an external one. This one was done at dusk. As you can see, we've got lights on the front of the house. We've got a darker exposure there as well to catch more of those lights because it's a bit blown out. It's not too bad. And then we go up here to catch all the shadows. As you go through it, you can see we're going to catch all these shadows around here. And we're going to catch them all in the front here as well. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to select them all. So you click on an image, hold shift, and then click on the end image, and you select them all, and then right click and go photo merge HDR. Once again, we'll get another preview to give us a rough idea of what it might look like. Actually, it looks pretty good so far. The white balance is way off, but it's not bad. So we're going to go merge. And a quick tip while this is merging, after a while you'll realize what things are white in the photo. You always, when you're taking photos internally or externally, you'll look for things that are white, and it'll leave a little imprint in your brain, And when you get into the editing part of it all, you'll look for those white things and select it for your white balance. Or you can take white balancing cards, color balancing cards if you want to. Alright, here's the image here, HDR blended. It's not too bad, but I'm very aware that that letterbox right there is white. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our eyedropper, select our white balance. And now we have the correct cast. As you can see, it's merged it all, but it's really done a number on the lights here for some reason. So that is a highlights issue. So if you bring the highlights back up to bring that detail back in, obviously it's blown out here. So all these lights are blown out. I'm going to fix those very shortly. Let's bring the exposure down a little bit, the shadows up a little bit to 100. And we'll go from there now. Let's edit in Photoshop. Right, there's our image. And let's go back into Lightroom and let's find one of the other shots that actually has the lights that are better. Like this, the lights here look really good. That part of it, not this part of it. And that looks really good for the rest of it. We've got one here that looks pretty decent. Let's have a look. It's a bit hot, but it's not too bad. We could bring the highlights down a little bit. Save that if we want to. And go edit in Photoshop as well. Now we have two images, one dark, one light. Let's take the dark one. Get the move tool up the left here. And move it over the top of the other one. Now there shouldn't be any movement at all because you haven't corrected anything yet. I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to create a mask. So now that is hidden behind. Now that mask is hidden until I brush it back in. So let's go to the brush up here and we're going to select a soft round. And your bracket keys make it go bigger and smaller, like so. We're going to make this sure this is set to white. And we're going to brush in some detail. Okay, what I like about it is how the lights are sorted out now, but I don't like, I'm not a big fan of that hot spot still, and also don't like the black that it's in it. So now we're going to change this to black. And you should be able to brush around the things you don't want. So let's get rid of that black. We're just going to gently do it like that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Hit the Z and click the zoom button. Just go in a little bit. Go back to the brush. We're just taking a bit of the black out. That's all we're doing. Don't want it around the windows. Don't want it around the house. We just want to, actually going to put that back in. And now that you've taken a lot of the blown out lights out of it, you just bring the opacity down just a little bit to even out those colors. So if you drop the opacity on this layer, what it's going to do is going to make it more see-through. So the colors from behind and the lights from behind will shine through a little bit more to even it out. Just bring it down till it looks best. If you turn it off, it looks like that. Turn it back on again, looks like that. All right, let's merge those two together because I've fixed that for now. Now let's do the sky. So now we go to Edit, Sky Replacement. Let's pick a sky that's suitable for this. Now this house is a really nice house. I don't really need to make the world's biggest extravagant sky. I mean, you can put in skies like this, but it just looks unrealistic. Well, although that looks pretty cool. Let's go with maybe this one. No, this one. That looks better. It's kind of like a night sky, the sun's setting. It's kind of what we're going for here. And do OK. And now we have our sky replacement. So let's blend those together as well. Remember, we're only working on a copy here. It's not like we're working on the original. And let's create a duplicate. So let's hold and click and scroll down to the plus sign and create a duplicate. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do something about these windows up top. This window here is quite good actually. It's a bit blown out. I should have fixed that as well. I'll do that in a minute. But these windows here need some work. So let's draw around them. Just click and draw around the window frame. Then hold shift and do the next one. I'm not doing the bottom windows because they're lit differently. We want these three because they're all evenly lit the same. We just want to give them a bit more punch. So let's go image adjustments and we'll go brightness and contrast. Just bring the brightness up a little bit. There we go, bit of contrast to give it a bit of depth, and those windows are done. Select, deselect, and you've just turned the lights on. Looks much nicer. I'm going to merge those as well. Now, I just merge these because this is how I do it. Obviously, if you didn't want to merge it as you're going, you don't have to. I just do it because it's just the way I do it. Because when I'm finished, I want to be able to take it back into Lightroom and finish the edit. But you can do it any way you want. Don't panic if you like doing it a different way. This is just the way I do it. Right, so we've still got this blown out window here. Let's look at the other one that we brought in earlier. That window detail is quite good. I'm going to drag it in over the top. And we're just going to line it up. Now we haven't adjusted any verticals. No need to worry about it being out of alignment. So let's zoom in. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw around this window frame. Like so. You're going to hold shift and start the next window. If you don't hold shift, it'll start the selection again. We're not worried about that plant. And then hold shift again. This plant is not the issue. And now we're just going to click on the layer mask here. And as you can see, if you turn it on and off, there's a clear difference. We've got this weird horrible plant. So now we're going to click on the mask and we're going to click on the brush tool. Make sure it's selected black. And we're going to brush in the detail of that plant from the other image. We're not going to go too far into the room because we don't want to get to the blown out bits, but there you go. So it's on, off. Plant looks really good. Then we're going to select the main part of the picture. So we're going to go from the mask to the actual picture, which is the whole window. We're going to do image adjustments, brightness, contrast. I'm going to bring that up a little bit. We just want to match it to the other windows. Okay. Once again, merge visible. If you zoom out, you can see it looks really, really good. Control S and Control W. Let's go back into Lightroom. Right, now we're going to mess with it a little bit. Let's do our verticals first. Scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to fix our verticals. We're going to go auto first, and then vertical. And that looks pretty strange. I'm going to hit the crop tool, which is fine. That's why I shot it wider. We want to crop a lot of that fence out anyway. But we want to go from the, I want to show it from below as much as we can. I don't like the fact that it's over straight. It looks like it's straightened too much. Let's look at the verticals. It needs a little bit of a kink. In these kind of scenarios, because I'm shooting uphill, it looks better if you don't make it perfectly straight because it looks a bit strange. So it's best just to shoot it a little bit on an angle like that. And that fence is what it is. Okay, let's get some other stuff going on here. Let's hit the mask tool again. We're going to do a linear gradient. We're going to do one on top, so you hold and click and drag it down, and then one on the bottom, hold and click and drag it up. Linear gradient, hold and click and drag it up, like so. First thing we do is going to bring the exposure down. That's going to darken the foreground down, and for the one up top, we're going to do exactly the same thing, except we're going to bring the exposure down and the temp down to make it more blue. Now it looks like a setting evening shot. And we're going to mess around a lot with the gradients here. So you can see this light here, it's a floodlight. It's blowing light through across here, but it's not really showing up on the ground. So let's create a radial gradient. And we're just going to do it like this. Bring the exposure up a little bit. And now we've got this nice patch of light in that direction of that floodlight. If you go too far, you get this kind of thing. It looks ridiculous. So just, you know, less is more in this case. We need another one of those. I'm going to put it around the front yard here. So let's put it over here like this. Alright, let's do one more. Let's get a brush this time. I'm going to brush around here. I just want to give a bit more light to that side of the house. Not too much. Bring it up a little bit. Brush a bit more. And hold Alt to take it off again around the edges, because you don't want to go into the sky area. Like that. Let's do another one. Make it bigger. Just brush it across the top. There we go. And we'll hold Alt again to basically, if you hold Alt, it erases what you just did. So around the edges where you don't want that sort of stuff. You can basically put this wherever you want. You can do over here. It's basically dodging and burning, just to bring in detail where you want to have detail, although I wouldn't have detail over that because it's just a weed. But I want some detail down the steps here, so I could literally run it down the steps like this, and definitely around the door. Okay, go back to the main edit. I think I need to bring this across a bit more, like so. And here is that external shot with the before and the after. I also did another shot a little bit further back from the house to show you what you can achieve when you spend a little bit more time shooting and editing. And here is that photo. And as you can see, it's much nicer because I spent a bit more time on the edit. There is so much to learn about real estate photography, and I still learn new things every day. And as you build a business, you will need to add more services like drone photography, floor plans, site plans, virtual staging, all that kind of stuff. And because of that, I've created a video right here just for you, so give that a look, and I'll see you over there. Thank you.